Hello there, my crafty friends. It's Ashley Pfeiffer, the maker behind Stamped AF. I am going to apologize right now. My nails are so not video ready, but I wanted to bring this video to you. I shared this post in the demonstrator planning place on Facebook. If you're a demonstrator, you know. But it was part of the One Stamp at a Time blog hop on Thursday that was about Sale-a-bration. So you can see I've used some of the gold and silver DSP. I've used the amazing phrasing. I've used the hippos turned into cows. So let me show you how to do this. We are going to change things up. I'm going to use the gold dots this time. And we're going to go with brown cows. How now, brown cow? And then I thought for the film strip, we are going to use some of the He's the Man DSP, because to me it kind of looks like a film strip. So I see I've got a little bit there. Now the thing you need to do with the film strip is have it where it's long enough that it's going to cross the whole card. I would love to do a voiceover for this video, but I really think it's going to be a long and complicated one. So you can see this is from the Happiness Abounds bundle. This is the die that I used to create that film strip. So we are going to go across twice. Now you can see I've got double mats on this card, inside and out. It is substantial. But on this one, I think we'll just do the white. But we'll see. Okay, so you need to make sure that this solid line is at the outside, because if not, you're cutting this piece off, not creating your film strip. So this piece of DSP is 1 3/4 inch wide. The length doesn't matter as long as it's over 5.5, so that you can go across your card base on an angle. Sorry, my phone's in the way. So we do have to run this through twice because we only have one of these dies. Boo. Okay, so now we'll do that on the other side, but we also have to go like one further. You can see this isn't quite wide enough. So the easiest way to do that is just to get those little rectangles to line up. You can feel it kind of lock in place. So I'm just going to repeat that on the other side. Remember that straight line needs to be against the outside. Otherwise, we're cutting this piece off. Okay, so I went ahead and did the other part. On my original card, I did some stitched rectangles for my little film strip, like the scenes, basically, what would be the picture. This time we're just going to do regular rectangles because this is already going to take forever. So keep it simple where we can, right? Okay, so that will be long enough. I'm entirely sure why I started with that, but I did, and now it's done. Okay, so we need to color our background because right now this isn't much of a cow background, and this bothers me. I don't know if it bothers you, but these aren't the same whites. So that's why I got to inking that one up. And I have to tell you, I was so proud of this design. Now, it was Dallas Cram that first turned the hippos into cows. Loved it. I thought, okay, how am I going to step this up? How am I going to use more Sale-a-bration stuff, like more? So that's what I did. Now, I think I'm going to use Early Espresso because we have an Early Espresso ink pad. With my black one, I used my Memento pad. This time we're going to use Early Espresso, and you're probably like, oh my gosh. If we still had ink brayers, I would do it that way. But I am going to fully saturate this. It doesn't have to be right to every corner, but I don't want any white showing. And I will most definitely have to re-ink this pad after this. The Memento was a lot easier. So if you're getting a whole bunch on there, just take a blending brush and work it in, because we want this to dry sometime this century, right? This is also getting any extra ink off of those gold dots. Now, if you did not want to dip your ink pad in like that, you could probably use a blending brush, but like I said, this is going to take a while. Like, there are a lot of steps to this card, which is why I didn't make a video initially, but it was requested. Now, I know it's coming late, and there's a good story. Not a good reason, but a good story. So I'm just trying to fold this so that I have somewhere to hold on to, so that I don't end up looking like a monkey by the end of this. I'm going to sacrifice another sheet of grid paper. So today I was off, and I had a couple of things I had to do. By the end of the day, I will have gotten 90% of that done, maybe more. But this was supposed to be very early on in the day, and I got to playing with my new planner, which is a perk for joining Stampin' Up! Well, Sale-a-bration is on, so from July 1st to August 31st. Current demonstrators were able to pre-order it, which, of course, is what I did. I don't want to get anything on here. This is my planner, and I have been hesitating to use it because I think, every time I've started using a planner, I go all in, because that's how my personality and ADHD are. And then a couple months later, I lose interest. I stop. So I'm like, should I really start using this, or should I just give it to someone who is really going to make use of it? And today I bit the bullet and started using it. And of course, that got me into this rabbit hole that took up most of the day. I've made some progress with my planner, but I'm not quite where I want it to be. And I will, once I get a couple more things done, I will show it to you, probably on this week's live stream, because I've got a little bit of prep to do still. So that took up most of the day. So now it's like, oh, it's late in the day. I need to get this done. I procrastinated enough. So yeah, that's my story. So now we have this inky mess. We're going to let that sit for a few minutes. And while we're doing that, and by that I mean letting this dry, I'm going to take my basic white, and I think we'll try it out. We're either going to use Sahara Sand or Crumb Cake to do our moves. Now, if you're wondering where the moo came from, it's actually from Amazing Phrasing, and it's the woohoo, but you can't just flip it. If you flipped it, you would have So because I have quite a few extra sets of these, I cut mine. And I would love to say that you can cut it and still be able to use it as woohoo, but the letters were so close that that just didn't work. So I cut one of my stamp sets, and then I opened another one so that I've got a fully intact set and a set that I can cut. So that might be more difficult if you don't have two of these sets. Now, I'm not going to... can I? When I did this initially, I stamped them all separately. They might work like that. Let's see. Let's stamp it on my grid paper and see if I like it. Now, when you look at my sample card, you'll notice that I didn't put moo everywhere. It's kind of around my little cow spots, which we are going to die cut with the layering diorama dies, because that's kind of how a cow spot looks. But we're only going to put them in certain areas. Well, that doesn't look so bad. And then I don't have to put my stamps on, like stamp all the M's and then all the O's and then all the exclamation points. Okay, so that was Sahara Sand. This is Crumb Cake. Kind of like Crumb Cake stamped off. be a little bit dark, but that's okay. So before I do this, unfortunately, I need to have my spots on here. Now this looks like one giant one. It's actually two smaller ones. I guess what I could do while I'm waiting is cut my little rectangles. So these are the smallest of the stitched rectangles, but like I said, I'm just going to cut them. So they are about 1.5 by 1 3/4. So I happen to have a strip of basic white here. So I'll do 1.5 by 1 3/4. That is not 1.5. 1 1/4. Makes a big difference. You wouldn't be able to see our film strip. Okay, that is better, although I might want it a little bit thinner. We'll see. So, what's next? What's next? For the layering diorama dies, diorama, I did the 4 smallest ones, but based on how that one looks, I'm almost thinking I should just do, you know what, I'm going to stick with what I have. I am just going to run this through my die cutting machine. There will be extra, and maybe you want to do it where you get 2 cards out of this. I'm not sure that that's possible, but we'll see. Okay, so now we just want to figure out where these are going to go. And instead of reinventing the wheel, I am just going to kind of go with what I had previously. Like I said, we're not going to see that part under the film strip. Okay, so we'll go something like that. And I just refilled my little fine tip Tombow glue pen, but I think we'll use, I was finding that my Tombows were just getting clogged too easily and it was never working. And I love my Tombow glue because it sticks like no other, but it really was getting stuck too much. So I've got it in a finer tip bottle, and it's also great for detail. I'm not putting much thought into where the glue goes, but I do want to have it where it's not going to stick to my grid paper, because that's what happened last time. So when I did this card, I used, like I said, I used the hippos. I stamped one of each of the 3 of them, and I used this little guy to create the stencil or mask for my hills. So I think what we'll do is, this happened to work out perfectly. Just pure fluke. I don't think I could do it again in a million years if I tried. But we'll ink up the whole strip. This way, I just did the rectangles and they just kind of, they flowed into each other, but seriously, pure fluke. So, do I have a scrap? You want to have a piece that is big enough that it's going to cover what you've got there. So I think I'm going to go about halfway, but I'll come across twice. Okay, so I have a little weirdness there. Made me remember why I didn't do that in the first place. So that part, I'll have to be careful around there, or I can use the back side of this. Doesn't really matter. I'm just worried that that is going to cause me some issues. And of course, I've got glue all over this grid paper. Okay, so let's start with some pool party. The other thing I did was, because I used these stitched rectangles, I stamped, colored, and die cut each of the cows, hippos, cows, cowpos, hippos. I die cut them, and then I ran them through the stitched rectangle die again, just to make sure that that stitching matched, except for this guy. I wanted him to be like the full body. Okay, so for the pool party, we don't need to worry about masking it off. You want to be sure that you have enough here for all 3 rectangles. Like I said, I cut mine the first time around, but they were also stitched. And if you don't want to have that harsh line at the edge, then you can ink blend a larger piece, and then you'll be cutting that off. But I kind of like it. I like it a lot. Okay, so make sure you go far enough that you don't have to come back in and do it again. And now for the grass, we're going to use Parakeet Party because it's such a beautifully bright green. You can see on this card, I used some of the In Color Glimmer paper. So she's got a heart, it's got a little tuft of grass, and she's got a flower. Not sure I'm going to do that this time. I mean, this card was really stepped up because of the blog hop. So we'll see. I'm thinking this might be enough. It's going to give us kind of a weird little hill there, but we can always just cut that part out. I am going to tape this down. And with my green blending brush, I always like to start off of my card so that I prevent that kind of stuff, but I am going to be building the color up. Make sure that you hold it down. You don't want your hills getting into the sky. Okay, so I don't think that's quite enough. I don't like that part. Maybe it's because there's like another hill back there. That could work, right? See, the only problem with this die is it's not meant to do this. So there's no like natural, it doesn't meet again, if that makes sense. Like you can't line it up seamlessly. Whoa. Remember what I said about starting off? Whoopsie. Yeah, I did not do great. This was, we'll figure that out. Just goes to show you that no matter how much you practice, no matter how often you do this, whether you are just getting started or you've been doing this for years, you can still make mistakes. Okay, so I'm going to take my scissors and just cut this off. My glue did go a little bit far. So when I am done with this, I will use just an alcohol swab on the blade of my scissors to get any adhesive off. I just noticed I'm sounding kind of like I'm losing my voice. I barely talk today. The coloring and die cutting of the cows is what took the most time. So when it gets to that part, I will film it all, but I will speed it up. Oh, if you have something like that happen now, chances are we're going to cover it with a moo. But if you had it in a spot where you can't cover it up, you can just use a Tombow Mono sand eraser. Don't press too hard. Make sure you wipe often because it can pill the paper. So I just get these little alcohol swab wipes from my pharmacy. They are so good for removing adhesive. Stork has a big mouth, hey? And it's good practice to do this every now and then. I know I'm not using Stampin' Up! Paper snips. It's because they're too sharp and I can't be trusted. Okay, so now we are ready for the moos. And I need to remember I am stamping off. I think if I stamped it at full strength, it would be too strong. Now, if you get it in an area where you've got, you can't, there's a seam or you can't stamp the whole thing, just make sure you press really good because you don't want to, really good, hard, whatever. You don't want to have a spot. I'm kind of thinking, let's take the exclamation mark off. I will do that part on its own. I pressed too hard. Our film strip might be going that way. Not that obvious. I pressed too hard. This is not a very deep stamp. It's not the first time I did it either. So light pressure. And at this point, you don't want to screw it up because it's, I mean, you'd have to start all of this all over again. It's not fun. So there's no point stamping a moo in there because we're not going to see it. Stamp one there. And then I will take my light crumb cake Stampin' Blend and just do a little bit of spritz. I like using my Stampin' Blend marker. You can use your Stampin' Right, which is what we had been doing for years, right? But this one kind of blends into the paper. It's not as harsh, and it covers up some of the white. There's nothing wrong with white space. I just don't want too much. I think my dark one is no good. Okay, so I want to make sure I cover up my little moo boo-boos. Not loving the color next to one another, but you know what? When the cows are on there and colored and all that jazz, it will look just fine. The measurement for these are, don't remember because I'm Dory. It was let's go with 1 3/4. So I like to use my little guillotine. I know this isn't current anymore, but I would be lost without it. Now, if you want that harsher edge from the pool party, go ahead and bring your blending brush in. Probably should have cut these first, but I was trying to make things easier on myself. Okay, that'll do. Okay, now I just lost the order in which I cut them. So try and have it where they line up. So much easier than die cutting it 3 times with that stitch rectangle and then having to stamp color and die cut the cows and then get the stitching on them. You probably can't even see until I point it out. See the little stitch marks in her head and her body? It was only on those 2, but it felt like a detail that just needed to be done. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and use my Tombow to just adhere those. And you can see that there are some lines left from the die. You can use that as your guide. This is not a card that I want to mass create, so I'm not looking for shortcuts, but if you needed to make a ton of these, I don't think you'd want to do all these steps. Now, like I said, when the cows are stamped and colored and die cut and popped on there, you're not going to notice if these aren't straight or what have you. Okay, so here is the part where I'm going to stamp them, color them, die cut them. And you might be wondering, why did I die cut them? I wanted that inked, the blended background without having to mask the cows. So it was easier to just stamp them and die cut. And you can see, if my phone would focus, that I colored the white edge of the die cut. So you can see the parakeet party only goes to like the middle of her head where the sky starts, and then the rest is pool party. Same on those ones, although I went a little bit too high with the grass on that one. Okay, so enough of the chit chat. I am going to put those together and set them aside and do some coloring. I painfully colored the one cow with black and then realized I wanted it brown. And my black Stampin' Right marker is like on fumes, and I don't know what to fill it with. What do we fill this with? We don't have basic black ink. Memento? I don't know. And my petal pink, you probably saw, I could not have less of it. I've got more on order, but I did not want to put this off anymore, so. Alrighty, you can see that I only colored when I needed to, especially because I was running out of my petal pink. So now I am just going to cut these, and then I will fill in the white space around them just so they don't look like die cuts. I'm wondering, do we have her ear sticking off just a tiny bit, or do I fill in that little bit of petal pink? I will color in those spots so that it doesn't look like an obvious die cut. That one we want fully intact. You can see this one again. I didn't color more than I had to. It wasn't being lazy. It was, I knew I only had so much petal pink. This little tutu really gets in the way. So cute, right? I apologize for this video being so long, even after having been sped up. I've been trying to get away from doing super long videos because I know myself I won't watch them. But this one just really had to be. There were so many steps involved that I wanted you to see it all. So now what I do is I will just put a tiny little dot where I need the green to stop. And then I know that the rest will be petal pink. Sorry, pool party. So now I will come to my grid paper. And the one thing I was thinking about as I was speedily coloring was that we are combining alcohol ink with water-based ink, which is great, but we are also combining it with, we don't want the Stampin' Right markers to run, is the gist of what I'm trying to say, but words are hard. So just be careful because we're mixing inks here. Now, granted, Memento is a water-based ink, but I don't want my colored spots to run. What a difference that makes, right? Blends right in. since I have pool party. And I am using the light of both. If you want to use the dark, go ahead, but I would prefer to have it on the lighter side. And if I need it darker, I can go back in again. You can put more on, you can't take it off. I might as well do this one while I've got this marker in hand. While I'm doing this, if you have any questions about this or any card making, Stampin' Up! Related question, please do not hesitate to reach out. I love to help. And if this was your first time here, welcome. I always wait till the end. If you loved what you saw, hopefully you loved what you saw, please consider hitting that subscribe button and giving it a thumbs up. It helps me reach more people and helps keep me doing this, because this is not my full-time gig. As much as I would love it to be, it is not. Now, the person that coined the phrase side hustle was not a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator. Let me tell you, there's nothing side about this. Oh, that was dumb. You see what I did? I colored the bottom of this guy. So, what I'm going to do is, I wasn't even thinking about that. So you don't want the green to go on there. We're going to do it, we're going to do it, brown, I guess. From the point that it reaches the film strip. Now that part is going to look awkward. And this part I find, well, even when I remember it, I find that I have to do it while it's on the card like this, so I have to be very careful. Now I will try some color lifter on this part, and if that doesn't work, I'm just going to come in with some chalk marker or white gel pen. Can't believe I didn't think of that. Doy. I was too focused on my exit greeting because I don't want to keep you hanging around longer than you have to. So I will fix this. But if this was your first time here, welcome. Please consider hitting that subscribe button. You will catch a new video almost each and every week. Sometimes life just gets in the way. Sometimes you'll even catch 2 in a week. So it just depends on the week. If there's something coming up like this week, there will be another video on Friday, and I can't wait for you to see it. So let me fix this. I know that the chalk marker is not current, but when we have a product like this that is just so invaluable, you don't part with it, right? Now, it may not be perfect, but perfection is highly overrated. So I'm going to go ahead and glue these guys on. We'll move on. I know I'm kind of all over the place saying goodbye and still coloring and still adhering stuff. Did I mention I have ADHD? So if you can relate to any of this, stick around. There's more to come. More where that came from. Now, one of the biggest challenges is getting it to line up the way you colored it in the first place. But I have to think that if someone got this or any card that is handmade, not Hallmark, but handmade, they wouldn't complain, right? Now, I may do this one on less of an angle, because what we need to do here is adhere this to our card base. And if you see on this one, I did pop it up, but I cut it off just a little bit because I wanted it to appear as though the film strip kept going. So I'm not going to pop this one up because it is DSP, which is a little less, has a little less strength than cardstock. Let's not do that on the card base. Here we go. I will continue to work at my little green spot there. Now for a cut like this, I like to use a guillotine because it's once and it's perfect. Even though mine sticks in one spot. Okay, perfect. Our negative doesn't stop. I'm going to use some Stampin' Seal. Now, like I said at the beginning, my original card had a double mat, so it had petal pink, and then it had this layer. We're going to skip that this time and just put it right on our early espresso card base. I want to make sure it's opening the right way. And I've already taken my moo stamps off my letters, but it would be cute to have moo on the inside. There isn't really a sentiment in the Hippest Hippos stamp set that is cow related because they're supposed to be hippos, right? But what do you think? I know there's a couple of changes between here and there. We've got some gems on there. I put Wink Stella on the film strip on this one because I felt like it needed to stand out a little bit more from the black background. So let me know what you prefer. Do you like the brown Jersey cows or the black ones? Let me know. I thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you soon, my crafty friends.